As Nigeria grapples with its worst inflation in history, analysts say President Tinubu's interventions may have failed to ease economic hardship in the first half of 2024. The government approved the disbursement of 555 billion naira to 100,000 families. The president also approved the conditional cash transfer under the now suspended Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Betta Edu. But despite these and other interventions, food inflation rose to 40% in May. The naira has weakened to over 1,500 naira to the dollar at the official market. It means the purchasing power of Nigerians has dropped and the citizens are getting poorer. Let's bring in economist and financial analyst Steve Nwachukwu. Good to see you and thanks for your time. They've talked about policies and now you just heard the Vice President talk about a whole lot in that speech there. On one hand, he spoke about our appetite for imported goods and even sometimes maybe services. But again, where do you think we haven't actually gotten it right? Because we've seen a whole lot of trials and Nigerians are saying that, look, it still hasn't actually eased off the pain.
I think where we have gotten it wrong is in the area of implementation of existing national policies and plans. We have a couple of them. You can name it from the time of Obasanjo down now. We have a couple of good visions and programs and strategic plans of government. Just like the Vice President actually read that, we need to depend on local production. But how do we follow through to that? How do we make sure that we even the local production? Is by aggressively implementing backward integration program or import substitution program. How do we do it? How can we be sincere to ourselves? We have to be dedicated. We have to dedicate money, dedicate service to it. So how do we get most of these crop items, most of these consumable items, food items that we import, produced locally? Government has to be sincere. We talk like Alhaji Dangote talked about power. How do you make sure that we have constant power? What is the existing policy around gas to power? So these are the issues. It's not rhetoric like reading it, we feel your pains, we understand the plight. It's a question of having a dedicated policy and a plan that can see us through it.
One of the points made by the gentleman there, former finance minister, Agonga, made a point as to value addition. That seems to be lacking. Yes, you have crude oil, but you don't have petroleum products. Iron ore, but no steel. And any nation that cannot produce steel and what have you, I mean, it's a total non-starter as far as development is concerned. What do we need to do concerning value addition?
We need to go back to the drawing board and to be sincere to ourselves and stop this very, what I may call, just symbolic pronouncements, just like you mentioned, the billions and trillions that have been put out there. Let's stop the symbolic announcements and face the facts. How can we make sure that we at least refine our products here? This is era or time of rhetorics of what we are doing, what we can do, how we're going to stop importation of petroleum products needs to stop. We need to be sincere to ourselves. If those refineries can be sold, let them be sold. If they can be revamped, let them be revamped. Yes, I understand that this administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu actually inherited a very fragile and weak economy. His job is to revamp and revive it, but not to totally collapse the economy.
But where does he start from? What are the fundamentals that must be in place if any development is going to happen at all?
Let's stop empowering an NPC to continually import most of these petroleum products. What we have seen in the past and successive administration is to empower an NPC to continually import these petroleum products. What can we do around the existing refineries we have? What collaboration can we enter into with the Dangote we have here with 650,000 barrel capacity? If Dangote alone produces 35 or 350 to 400,000 barrels, that makes our local consumptions. These are the areas, these are the things that is putting pressure on our exchange market. Right. And NPC continue to pay the bills on our exchange market. If we can deal with that and take the chunk of this import bills from NNPC, we have saved a lot. Our naira, we have some level of strength. Then we come back to agriculture. Let's be sincere to ourselves. The artisanal farmers, Nigerians are leaving their ancestral home, becoming fugitive in their own land. How can we return these farmers to their homes? How can we move into mechanized farming, just like the former minister talked about Aganga? It can be done. It's a question of dedication. It's a question of determination.
And Steve, the talk of dedication, determination isn't far from us. You're spot on, because just recently we were talking about our local refinery, the only local refinery we have that is working, Dangote refinery, not getting crude on the one hand. And we also saw how our lawmakers got vehicles in a country where we now have locally assembled vehicles, not the assembly, patronizing these companies. Yeah. So when we talk about our appetite for foreign goods, it starts from the government. The government still hasn't shown that, move to help patronize locally manufactured goods. So it comes back to the policy you spoke about. How can we ensure, this is in closing, how can we ensure that all of us will come back and say, wait a minute, we've all erred, we're sorry, Nigeria, and we're all sorry, genuinely, that we can now start going back to doing what we have always highlighted?
Of course, it has to start from planning. Planning has to do with the budget provisions. You have to prioritize it. This is the time you can place Nigeria in austerity measure, in the sense that there are some essential things, there are some certain things we don't need to start embarking in spending, just like we talked about those SUVs that we saw bought for the members of the National Assemblies. These are chunks of thousands or millions of dollars thrown away. So these are the ways. Budgeting itself, government has to prioritize the items, vote a lot of money in security, vote a lot of money in agriculture, vote a lot of money in commerce and trade. These are the areas that can revamp the economy. We can get this economy started only if we, like I said, dedicated and remain steadfast in implementing and following through whatever plans we have, than rhetoric, than symbolic announcements. We need to follow through. How can we support the local manufacturers if we have to follow through aggressively the backward integration program? How can we make sure that some of these very technologies, through bilaterals, that we can have some of this technological transfer to our local manufacturers, to our local industries? These are the areas government needs to come in. There is nothing we cannot do. Government needs to be decisive. Government needs to lead. That's why I said follow through. Prioritize the spending of government. Right. There is nothing stopping government declaring a state of emergency in our economy as we speak. If you do that, it will give a right signal to MDs and all the agencies and ministers that, yes, we're in quite a difficult period. We don't need to spend in luxury items, so that you can use available resources to pump in areas that need this very money. We cannot continue to have ourselves in the condition we have seen the last 2-3 decades.
Steve Nwachukwu, lead researcher, Steward Asset Management Limited, thank you so much for joining us on Newsnight. It is a continuing conversation.